by eliminating of its root causes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Is RIA Novosti with us? Yes, Madam Zakharova. Christina Rodriguez, RIA Novosti. We have 2 questions today, if you allow. I will move on to the first question. How would you comment on the information that has appeared in the media that the illegitimate high representatives of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mr. Schmidt, is soon to leave his post and pass on his duties to someone who will be approved by the UN Security Council? Actually, Mr. Schmidt, he did not occupy any post. He just qualified himself as some representatives. He was not approved by the UN Security Council for this post. He did not have any legitimacy. They're just words, special words. He's just an usurpator that can qualify him. And to pass on his functions, to pass on the functions he does not have, he has never had. He cannot do that, and the post is vacant after Valentin Inzko left the post. Actually, his stay in Bosnia and Herzegovina is just his private business. It has nothing to do with post-conflict settlement in Bosnia and Herzegovina. At least as agreed by the international community, Russia is one of the Dayton Agreement guarantors. Agreement of 1995 supports the elimination of the external protectorate incompatible with the sovereignty of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We stand for the entire responsibility for the fate of the country and its people, equality and equal and respectful dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My second question, if I may. Russia has made considerable efforts to establish the facts of the staged incident in Bucha. As far as I know, in the context of the investigation of this provocation, you have repeatedly sent relevant inquiries to the UN Secretariat. I would like to know how you received any response. As you know, this issue is regularly raised and controlled by Sergei Lavrov. During his contacts with UN officials, including Secretary General Guterres, he not only regularly talks about this, but also conveys the corresponding letters. What is our permanent mission to the United Nations in New York does. We continue to seek a substantive response from the UN Secretariat to Russian inquiries regarding the provocation in Bucha in April 2022. In particular, we insist on the provision of a nominal list of the names of the people whose bodies were shown in the Western media footage, the British in particular, that went around the world. And they were represented as civilians killed in Bucha, and accusations were voiced towards Russia and Russian military. So far, we have seen, only to put it mildly, an evasive reaction from UN officials to proposals for constructive interaction with Moscow. We call on the representatives of the World Organization to abandon the actual connivance with the Ukrainian staged incident. Not only Ukrainian, I mean the western part of Ukraine, which was aimed at discrediting our country. We call upon the UN Secretariat, the UN Secretary General, to hold a thorough and transparent investigation to identify the persons responsible for this monstrous crime of the Kiev regime. The fact that Russia claims this list, this name-by-name list of the people who were misrepresented as victims. We are doing this not only to lift this accusation from us, we are doing this in order to encourage the international community to launch an international investigation, what had happened there, and who had killed those persons and those who had orchestrated these events in Bucha. The other day, Sergei Lavrov sent another message to UN Secretary General on this topic, and we await their reaction once again. Thank you very much. Izvestia, are you with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. We have 2 questions today, if I may. My first question, Trump, in a conversation with journalists, distanced himself from the topic of the seizure of Russian assets by European Union countries to help Ukraine, saying that he's not involved in this. In your opinion, can the statement reason with the leaders of the European Union to stop their gangster actions? The main inspirer of the sanctions pressure on Russia, as is known, was the administration of former U.S. President Biden, with its active support along. And before that, under Obama administration, the Biden was the part of as a vice president more than 10 years ago. Obama stated that the Russian economy is in tatters, and they are trying to demolish and to undermine Russian economy again. With its active support, a law on peace through strength in the 21st century was adopted in the U.S. in April 2024, containing a mechanism for the confiscation of Russian sovereign assets. The goal was to push, or rather to provoke, other Westerners, primarily the European Union, to confiscate our state reserves. Let me remind you that the sanctions of the European Union of 2014 were adopted under the pressure of the United States of America, and personally, the then Vice President of the Obama administration, Biden, he was the Vice President at that time, he said that that was something he was particularly proud of. He made everything personally to make European Union adopt those sanctions against Russia. Washington, even then, effectively shifted the main burden of losses in the event of the implementation of this venture to the European Union, in whose jurisdiction the largest part of the remaining domestic assets in the West is located. What is happening now is a direct consequence of the fact that the European Union followed the lead of the then White House administration and took a course towards a senseless confrontation with Russia and the unrestrained pumping of the Kiev regime with money and weapons. This led Brussels to its current state of affairs when, to please the political ambitions of individual Euro officials and Russophobes, the European Union risks finally undermining its international reputation as a once reliable economic and investment partner. The current enviable economic situation in the European Union, it is obvious. It is the matter not of the future, but it is the matter of the present. And this current economic situation, which is the result of the severance of ties with Russia for the EU political elites in power, it seems has not become a lesson. Alas, they also lost their strategic independence when taking crucial and key solutions. And as I have already said, that has not become a lesson to them. They have took a step further towards an abyss. However, the West understands that the theft of our state reserves will not go unanswered. Evidence of this is the continued absence of consensus, as well as within the Group of Seven, on the issue of allocating a reparation loan to Ukraine at the expense of our assets. The real collective responsibility, despite all the slogans about European or the Western solidarity, is not something the European Union is in a hurry to take on. There is no line of those wishing to finance the Kiev regime by issuing common European debt instruments in sight. Instead, there is the usual unseemly squabble around money, in this case someone else's. For this association where everyone defends their own interests and where those who have nothing special to lose in this situation, they shout the loudest. They have nothing to lose, as we know. This perseverance is worth of better application, and the EU members continue to finance both the Kiev regime and their own and foreign defense concerns, are increasingly reminiscent of a company that has been partying for too long in a restaurant, and they understand that they have been brought the bill for several times, but they have no money and they don't know how to cancel it. Once again, we can warn the European Union from the theft of sovereign Russian assets. It will not get additional funds, but serious long-term problems. Thank you, Madam Zakharova. My second question. What actions on the part of the United States became the reason for the denunciation of the plutonium disposition agreement? As you know, on October 27 this year, the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, signed Federal Law number 379 on the denunciation by the Russian Federation of the agreement between the government of the Russian Federation and the government of the United States of America on the disposition of plutonium, declared as plutonium no longer required for defense purposes, its handling and cooperation in this field, and the protocols to this agreement. This agreement has lost its relevance, its effect, and the protocols to it were suspended by Russia back in 2016. This was caused by the unfriendly actions of the United States and Washington's attempts to change the procedure for the disposition of plutonium prescribed in the agreement without obtaining consent for this from the Russian side. Not one of the conditions outlined by Russia in 2016 for the resumption of this agreement has been met, and this is a clear fact. We qualified these actions as destructive, and these destructive actions contributed to the general aggravation of the military political situation in the world. Moreover, the United States unilaterally abandoned the strategy for the disposition of plutonium agreed upon with the Russian side and resumed the production of plutonium bits for its nuclear warheads. As a consequence, Russia decided to complete the process of terminating cooperation with the United States within the framework of the agreement. This is a signal that any attempts to undermine Russia's military political interests and to unilaterally revise the terms of international agreements concluded between our countries will receive a firm and consistent rebuff. We have repeatedly mentioned, but if you ask us to do so, I repeated this. Thank you very much. Archie, are you with us?